So this is something. We have Democrat Chris Murphy. He's a Democratic senator. And he's talking to Bret Baier here on Fox News about Roe versus Wade. And he is going to contradict himself instantly. So on the one hand, he argues, look, purity tests are extreme. I don't want to do them. I just want more Democrats elected. I don't really care about the flavor or the variety of Democrats. And then he takes the opposite position 2 seconds later. This is really astonishing. Let's watch, and then I'll tell you why this contradiction exists and why he said what he said.
Sanders also says he supports a primary challenge to moderate Kyrsten Sinema. Do you? Because she's against doing away with the filibuster?
Listen, I don't mind having a big tent, right? We can sort of argue these issues inside our party. I don't ever expect that we're going to have every single Democrat in the United States Senate supporting the same rule set that I support. I just think we should elect more Democrats. That's how we're going to solve this problem. Elect Democrats in this November election.
But not pro-life Democrats.
Who are going to support choice and support changing the laws of this country.
Yeah, so not that big tent. Pro-choice candidates.
Well, I support pro-choice candidates.
I got it.
So that's my priority.
I love that. You could see on his face at the very end there that he knows he just contradicted himself. He makes this face of like, didn't I just make the opposite point? So let me explain this. Bernie Sanders saying he's cool with primarying Kyrsten Sinema. The reason he says that is because Kyrsten Sinema is basically a Republican. You know, when you look at her voting record, when you look at Manchin's voting record, 538 tracks this. In the age of Trump, how often did various politicians vote with Trump? And with Manchin, overall, he voted 50% of the time with Trump. There was even one legislative session where he voted 60% of the time with Donald Trump. So that is a Republican. That's a moderate Republican, is what that is. Kyrsten Sinema is the same. I don't know her number off the top of my head, and I never looked up her number, but I would imagine it's somewhere in the ballpark of where Manchin is, maybe a little bit less. Who knows? So, of course, Bernie's going to be okay with primarying these people because he cares more than your average politician about the substance. He cares about, getting climate change legislation done and getting universal pre-K and getting free college and, $15 minimum wage, all these things. Many of them Kyrsten Sinema was against and killed Build Back Better along with Joe Manchin. Bernie cares about that stuff and he wants to get it done. So he's like, yeah, of course, I would support primary opponent against Kyrsten Sinema. Chris Murphy goes into colleague protection mode. Well, the thing was, I was thinking me and Craig and them was down by Safeway and the sun was in my eyes. And I just think I'm a big tent guy and I think we need a big tent with people don't have to agree with me on stuff. You know what I'm saying, bro? And I just want to more Democrats, just more Democrats. So he's kind of admitting I'm just a partisan hack. I don't even care about the policies. I care about just, are you part of my party? If you disagree with me on everything within my own party, that's fine as long as you're a Democrat. So that is the big tent approach, and I'm against purity tests. And then in the very next sentence, he's like, pro-choice Democrats I support, pro-choice, not pro-life, pro-choice. Wait, what happened? You were just talking about a big tent. You were just talking about a big tent. You were just making the opposite point. And now you're saying, well, I do have a purity test, and it's on the issue of abortion. So why is this happening? Why? And by the way, a number of politicians, Democratic politicians, are exactly like Chris Murphy, where they'll make the Big Ten argument and it's okay as long as you're a Democrat, we can have in all these ideological, diverse perspectives. And then they'll be like, but pro-choice. So why? Why is that? The answer is very simple, guys. On social issues and on the issue of abortion, there is no big money lined up in favor of the pro-life position. There is no giant pro-life lobby that's giving Democratic politicians money. Doesn't exist. If anything, the money's lined up on the other side of it, on the Democratic side, where you have a bunch of groups, whether it's Planned Parenthood or NARAL or whatever, they're pro-choice, Emily's List, and they give money to the politicians. So there is a financial incentive for them to actually take the pro-choice position. On the other issues, like on economic issues, where Kyrsten Sinema is always blocking progress, the Democrats have a financial incentive to agree more with Kyrsten Sinema and not be for Medicare for all and not be for a living wage and not be for universal pre-K, not be for unions. So they actually, ideologically, the overwhelming majority of the Democrats are pro-choice and the money lines up for them to be pro-choice. On economics, a lot of them virtue signal like they're in favor of left-wing economic programs and social programs that help working people, but the money lines up against that. So the point I'm trying to make here is, on the economic stuff, they're corrupted. They're bought by corporations. They're bought by billionaire oligarchs. So they might virtue signal about supporting a lot of these, left-wing economic programs, but then when push comes to shove, they either support half measures of that or don't support it at all. And so that's why you get this contradiction here. They're freed up to actually argue in favor of left-wing social positions because there's either no money involved in it or there's money coming from the left-wing side of it. So they're like, yeah, I'm pro-choice, and I'll have a purity test around that. But you don't have any purity tests around economics. You don't have one around Medicare for all. You don't have one around free college. You don't have one around a living wage or the PRO Act. You don't have one around universal pre-K or elder care. You don't have one around extending the child tax credit. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So in other words, they go where the money goes. Yeah, we're allowed to have purity tests around this issue because the money's all on one side of this issue. On the other issue, no purity tests. No purity tests on economic stuff because we get paid to be economically conservative, relatively speaking. Look, my perspective on this is very clear, and I've told you guys a million times. I don't have any purity test around character. I don't care about purity of character. I care about purity of policy. And so I do have beliefs that I strongly hold on most things where I want somebody I'm going to vote for to line up with at least some of those things and to actually mean it authentically. These guys are they've never really thought these things through in any serious way. They don't really have a philosophical approach. They're just sort of going with the wind. And this is an instance where we have a big tent, we don't believe in purity test position, butted right up against, well, on abortion we do. Because when there's no money involved, or the money's on the left-wing side of it, well, then I'm freed up to actually care about this issue. Whereas on the economic ones, nope. Doesn't happen. So it's amazing. It's very rare that somebody destroys themselves and their entire worldview in under a minute and instantly contradicts themselves. But that's exactly what Chris Murphy just did. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.